Phoenix Holocaust Survivor Association gets requests from time to time for speaker to schools, to senior groups for speaking about the Holocaust. I find it interesting that the interest in the Holocaust is increased recently. It wasn't that much interest here 10 years ago or so. I am one of those people who sent out from the Holocaust Survivor Association. It's K. Knight is the person who is organizing the speakers and asking people to go out to schools or other places where it is needed. And we still have a couple of people who can drive and who can go out, although the number is decreasing very, very fast of the Holocaust survivors who can go out and talk to mainly schools. I am doing this for quite some time, going to schools regularly, all over the place. And what I try to do is not to speak, not to give them a boring long speech, but rather have a conversation with them and answer the questions what they don't feel good about it or don't understand. And that way it really works out very well, because I ask questions from them and they ask questions from me, and it gets to be a one conversation, and that's what I would like to do here also. Usually I speak about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes about myself and then open up to the questions. Can you all hear me all right?
Yes.
Don't need this, the mic. I was born and grew up in Hungary, in the southeastern part of Hungary, near the Romanian-Yugoslavian border, if you know the geography. It was a primitive area, agricultural area, and we were very lucky to survive. And one of the reasons we were lucky that we lived in a very primitive area, and it was much easier for us to adjust the concentration camp than people who lived in the city and they never had to wash their own socks. The other reason why I was also lucky, because people living in the agricultural area were useful for the Germans, because we knew how to harvest fruit and vegetables and milk a cow and take care of the chickens and the pigs. People in the city did not have that experience. So we were put into labor camps rather than extermination camps. The third reason we were lucky, that Hungary was an ally of Germany. And because of that, deportation did not start until the early summer of 1944. In other countries, in Germany and Czechoslovakia and Poland and so on, deportation started years earlier. We were not deported until Germany effectively entered and occupied Hungary, because they were afraid that they're changing side. And Hungary didn't deport the Jews. There were a lot of nasty things in Hungary too, no question about that, but they did not have deportation. So we were in concentration camp only 10 months rather than years, which also helped a great deal. When I talk to adults or children, ask them, what are their impression? When they hear concentration camp, what do they think of? And most of them are telling me that Auschwitz, Dachau, and the other big ones. And they asked them, how many concentration camps were there altogether? Would anybody dare to guess here in this group? More. 1,600. These are the things that people usually don't know about it. Most of them, number-wise, were small labor camps, either industrial labor or farm labor. And of course they know about the extermination camp, the killing camps, which was Auschwitz, Dachau, and the other big ones. But they don't know that there were so many of them. We were lucky that my mother, my grandfather and me stayed together, and we were put into a labor camp in Austria. So that was the end after several camps. We were only 35 people in the camp. We didn't have barbed wire, we didn't have guards, so it was different than people expect based on what they know about the large camps or how we lived or how we survived. And after that I said, okay, you have to ask questions, because it is better if you ask the questions than I tell the
How
story.
old were you?
I was 9 years old when I was put into camp, and I was 10 years old when I was liberated.
What was your experience on the rail car?
The very important thing in the rail car that we were really still believing that there will be some way out. And when they put us into the rail car, the first rail car was from the village where I was born. My father was born, my grandfather was born 5 miles from there. We realized that there is no more hope. We were 81 of us put into that rail car. If you went here and you saw on that rail car, you saw that 81 people in that car. It doesn't give any room. We didn't have anywhere to sit. The window, by the way, on that rail car was smaller than that one, so we didn't have any air either. No water, no bathroom facility. I remember on the rail car they had a big iron bar all around it with big iron rings that was used to tie up the cattle, because that was a cattle carrying rail car. That's what they used it for. And we were squeezed in like herrings. On the next railway car, the other group behind us had 83 people, not 81. And that was the end of the hope.
How long were you on the rail car?
The first transport was only for a day, little over a day. That was from Stockholm, the village I was born, to Solna, which was it's a collection camp. Or another thing, concentration camp. There are different kind of concentration camps besides labor camps and extermination camps. There were collection camps, there were distribution camps. Solnok was a distribution camp in Hungary, where all the people from the country area was collected in, and then they decided where they shipped them. Some of them went to Auschwitz, some of them went to Strasbourg, some went to other places. And people again don't know that there are different kind of concentration camps. They're all concentration by definition, but the purpose was for different one, collection or sorting, distribution and that sort of thing. So the first one, to answer the question, was from Szekhalom to Szolnok, which is a city in the middle of Hungary. And I remember that very well because it was early summer and it was raining, and we were out in the rain for almost a week in the mud. That was the introduction part. And then the second railway car was from Szolnok, about a week later, from Szolnok to Strasov. Strasov was a distribution camp in Austria. And that was 2 days and nights in the railway car. Yes.
You were 10 when you said the camps were liberated, the war was over?
I was 10 years
So that
old
was
when
in
I was
45.
liberated on
So then
April
where-
2nd, 1945.
So after your liberation, where did you go? What happened?
After liberation, after a war, there is nothing. There are no telephone, there are no buses, there are no rail cars, transportation. There is nothing there really. Everything is destroyed. And in order to meet the family, we decided that we go back, we walk back to the village where I was born. My father, my uncles, and all the military-age men were conscripted long before the deportation started. They were conscripted to military service, military slave labor. But they were under military control, which was much even harsher than the civilian control. If anybody went AWOL there, that means desertion, that they get shot, no question asked. So when we were transported, the deportation was for older men, women and children. Okay,
So when you got back home, you actually made it back to your village?
when we get back to the village, my uncle was there.